Millennials and elder Gen Z should stop having babies. I feel like this is the case with many people, but I've had a lot of friends the last few years who have been offspringing.
And if you're one of my friends who have, this video is for comedic purposes. I love y'all, you have beautiful children, and I know they're gonna make the world a better place. Continue.
Maybe it was the pandemic because myself and a lot of my friends were jobless and locked down. I like to say there are 5 things that everybody gained at least one of during the pandemic: weight, depression, a hobby, a Nintendo Switch, or a child. To be clear, I don't judge anyone for any of those. And we definitely need to stop judging people about the weight. Yeah, sometimes we gotta eat to make ourselves feel better. What do you want instead, crack? Just don't let it get too out of hand and stop making a big deal about people gaining a little bit of weight. Maybe it was the post-pandemic. People wanted to wait to get married to fertilize, but they couldn't have a wedding. But now they can. So the anticipation of the honeymoon was viciously teased, and by the time they finally got married and released all of that pent-up passion, they duplicated. The answer is actually, I've reached a stage in my life where my friends having babies is pretty common, but I don't want to accept that, so it's one of those 2. If you're wondering where I stand when it comes to pandemic gains, I gained 3 out of the 5. And one of them was definitely not a child. I get asked every now and then, certainly not as often as my poor female friends, who I'm sure are sick of it by now, if I want kids or when we're gonna have one.
By the way, I think the phrase "we're having a baby" is a grossly inaccurate statement.
She is having a baby. All you did, sir, is give her half of the initial ingredients while she grew the damn thing herself and violently expelled it while you were sitting back drinking Coors and eating sushi. It's like saying we made a cake when all you did was get out the flour and the sugar while she got everything else out, preheated the oven, mixed it all together, poured it in a pan, put it in the oven, and then had to spend hours getting it out of the burning oven using only her tongue and eyelids. But when it comes to the question of having children, like, have you seen this? We've already got enough issues properly feeding, housing, clothing, and nurturing everybody. And if this past decade has taught us anything, educating everybody. And you expect me to add to this problem? You want me to bring someone else into this miserable world? You expect me to take precious resources from people who already exist? That's existential appropriation. And there's people who are like, it's part of our nature, we're meant to reproduce. But the world is populated as right now. When Mother Nature created us, surely she didn't mean that we were supposed to reproduce this much. All this reproduction is killing Mother Nature anyway. All the buildings, factories, like, I doubt Mother Nature's had a night for herself in 150 years. If Mother Nature had known this was gonna happen, she probably would have aborted. But yeah, you want me to add another variable to this population problem? Read the room, people! By the way, if these semi-serious sentiments implicate that I'm some sort of America's full, so treat immigrants and asylum seekers like subhuman criminals kind of people, I'm not. America is full is an absolutely false statement when there's a huge, perfectly empty Montana inside of it. We got Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z. I think the Earth needs a Gen G. Generation gap. We just don't have kids for a while and we let the world settle a little bit. But man, people really want my generation to have babies. But you know who really wants us to? Corporations. They really want us to have babies so they can have a future workforce. I see articles relatively often about how my generation isn't having enough babies and how it's gonna cock up the economy. So I'm already kind of seeing hints at a Gen G. And I say, keep that shit up. They're scared, y'all. This is how we get what we need. This is how we eliminate student loans. This is how we get universal health care. Everything we want. Better access to education, affordable housing, a livable wage, lower insurance premiums, less price gouging, a new Fuji album, new ideas from Disney. This is how we get it. We have a baby strike. It's a foolproof form of protest. Let's think about all the other forms of protest that we've tried throughout history. There's the work strike. We won't work unless you give us what we want or need. The downside? You're not making any money, they can replace you, and you might have to find another job. There's the boycott. We're not gonna buy your products until you give us what we want or need. The downside? Buying stuff turns into a goddamn audition. Goya's performance was pretty good, but on the resume it says massive Trump donations. That's a nope. Frito-Lay. Ooh, says right here they've got unsafe working conditions and they're not paying enough. That's a nope. Amazon. Ooh, instead of increasing the pay of their underpaid, overworked factory workers, Jeff Bezos spent millions of dollars going to space. That's a nope. Your shopping list comes with another list and it turns into this tedious scavenger hunt to find stuff made by the least shitty people. Grocery shopping already sucks. I don't want it to be made worse. There's the hunger strike. I'm not gonna eat until you give me what I want or need. The downside? Well, that's kind of in the title, isn't it? And no boss is gonna care about one person not eating because of them. They'll just replace you with a less hungry person. So now you're hungry and jobless. And this method really only worked for Gandhi, and you ain't no Gandhi. But y'all, a baby strike. we're not gonna reproduce until you give us what we want or need. Sure, at first it seems like a hollow promise and it could take some time to pan out, but as I alluded to earlier, we're already kind of doing it. And what could our downsides possibly be? You don't exhaust your time, money, and patience to keep a human being alive for at least 18 years? You don't get to become numb to having puke and poo expelled upon you? You don't run the risk of your son getting radicalized by some incel podcaster and now you're forced to love a teenage Andrew Tate? You don't run the risk of your child's favorite Disney movie being one of the saddest ever made and you're forced to rip your heart out every single day because that's how often they insist on watching it? Like, I watched Lion King to death growing up, like for years. And I never cried at the Mufasa part, but now when I watch it, I'm a wreck every single time. What the hell did I do to my parents? You get to have time for yourself. You get to have more sleep. You get to save some money. Well, as much money as your underpaying job is allowing you to have, but there you go. All the more reason for a baby strike. You expect us to raise a child in a country that's not paying us nearly enough to do it? No. We're gonna deny your future workforce and customers until you make it affordable to produce them. Now, with forms of protest like a boycott, there will always be another side who backs the business and floods them with purchases. When people started boycotting Chick-fil-A because of the homophobic hate group donations, Christians just poured money into that chicken chain, like Jesus always wanted. But would we really have people during a baby strike who, in support of business, would have more babies? Not because they wanted another one, but because they're supporting big business? Yeah, son. You were born because we had steak and Amazon, and we needed their stock to stay consistent. Like, I'm sure Tucker Carlson or Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity or Tommy Lahren would be anti-baby strike, and they'd probably be encouraging their viewers to have babies while not doing it themselves, and I'm sure Harrison Butker would be a frequent guest of theirs. But would anyone actually procreate and plunge themselves further into financial misery to support businesses and a government that would rather them do said plunging than make it easier to exist? Maybe Jesse Waters would. Fox News is full of sycophants who knowingly say bad and dumb things. But Jesse Waters just genuinely seems like he's actually really stupid. It's a great long-form protest, y'all. There's strength in numbers. Or in this case, lack of numbers. It's like A Bug's Life, except they attack the grasshoppers by not having ant babies, and instead of the movie being an hour and a half, it's 18 years. Like I said, they're already writing articles about how millennials and Gen Z are not having enough babies. Typically, I'll see people, usually women, choosing to not have babies for personal reasons. Like the belief that a child is not a requirement of being a woman is becoming more accepted. And more broadly, the belief that children are not necessary to give your life meaning. And then there's the 4B movement in South Korea, where women are so tired of misogyny and the patriarchy that they're not dating, marrying, boinking, or procreating with men. Which, you know. But corporations and the government don't care about your feelings, and the males that make up the vast majority of their leaders probably don't take feminist movements as seriously as they should. So try another angle. Say you're abstaining from multiplying to hurt their wallets, which is something they actually care about. You don't like that we're not having children because we're looking for fulfillment away from raising them? Well, how about we're choosing not to have children because of the financial reality of the working class that would make childcare near impossible? It could work! So let's do it, y'all. Stop having babies.